I'm Chris Fontaine. I play the role of Dr. Nicholas Sommers. What drew me to Grim Whimsy was the fact that Dr. Nicholas Sommers is a psychiatrist, and I've always been fascinated with psychology. I've studied it in college, and I've just been fascinated with it in my everyday life. And so this story about the psychiatrist who wants to save people, Sommers, is also a wannabe hero. And that's something that I've always felt I wanted to be. I want to be this hero. I want to find that opportunity to be heroic, and rarely do, but Dr. Nicholas Sommers actually finds a way to be a hero in his psychiatry. And there are problems that come with that, of course. And we see that in the film. Well, Alyssa was a great director. She was always there to kind of help me understand what the character was feeling in the moment, which was very helpful. Beyond that, I learned a lot about just the filmmaking process. She was very open to helping out with that. Playing opposite with her, that was sometimes a challenge when I don't admire Alyssa having to both direct and act in front of the camera. That must have been very difficult for her. I mean, I could see some of that, in just trying to switch from one role to the other. But it was a fascinating experience. I felt very comfortable with her direction. I know I sometimes ask a lot of questions as an actor to try to understand my character better, and she was open to the questions. So I really appreciated, that she would listen to me, and give me feedback on the different aspects of playing Dr. Nicholas Sommers. When I'm trying to play a role, I'm always trying to find elements of myself that relate to the character, to give more realistic performance to the character. It always helps to have friends on set, that you can talk to and talk about things outside of the character. And that was always very helpful as well, to take myself out of that character for a little while, so I don't get too lost in the character. I began to know Sommers a little bit better along the way. I mean, he definitely has some issues that he has to deal with throughout the course of the story. And I got to understand how that affected him a little bit better throughout the course of the story, and how he had to deal with that, and how he had to come to terms with some of those problems that he has to deal with. Well, coming from theater to film was a little bit of a challenge for me. In theater, you have to be big and demonstrative and have big facial expressions, big gestures and emotions, and in the film, I had to pull it back, to be more subtle. And Alyssa was a big help in that, she helped me see how the subtle emotions can express the same feelings, in film that you do in theater. So it was an interesting challenge, and I'm very thankful that Alyssa gave me this opportunity and gave me the direction to help me reach that performance that we needed for Whimsy. I can't say I prefer one over the other. I enjoy them both. I enjoy getting on stage and making people laugh and doing or cry or whatever the case may be, and to actually get that immediate feedback is great in theater. And film, what's great is that you can try it over and over again until you get it right, and that's what gets hopefully put on film. Hopefully you get it right, but I hope I did that with Whimsy. Being a prop master and an actor on the film was a bit of a challenge, but I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun because I enjoy both aspects of the process. Were there some props that I had to create and then destroy? Sure. But I think that's part of the process, and it's actually kind of fun to see your work, whatever work you put into a prop or a set piece, play well on film and in that scene. If it really brings something to that scene, that makes me very proud that I was able to do that. I had some moments like that where I felt very proud of this prop that I made, even though it's just this little thing in the background, but it added a little something to that scene that made that scene work just a little bit better. So, do I have a favorite prop? Funny enough, I do, and it's kind of a silly thing. It was a no trespassing sign that was used in the background of one of the scenes. I really wasn't sure how it was going to turn out. I had this great idea, to create it, and it actually turned out quite well. So I was kind of proud of that one. Getting into character and preparing to get into character was a matter of understanding, what Dr. Sommers is, first of all, and knowing what motivation he had in each scene, of course. It was a process for me to get into that character and then to convey those emotions in that scene. I did draw upon things in my own life to bring up some of the emotions. For example, that there's some very strong protective emotions that come out of, and some tragedy that can, come up. And when I had to feel about those, I would think about my own family, my kids, and think about them in this situation. How would I feel in those situations? And that helped me bring up some of that emotion that I needed to really convey that to the audience. So I think he trusts the institution. So I don't think it was a matter of not trusting the institution that he's a part of, that whole process of psychiatry. I think there's pride. I think there's reputation involved, which is part of pride. But I also think he feels he can handle it himself. He thinks he's got a good enough handle on it. Does he? There's some good and bad representations of males in this. Dr. Nicholas Sommers does come to a point where he feels bad for some of the things he did, and he wants to do better. I think that's one of the problems that we have sometimes in today's society, is we don't believe some of the people that are telling us that these bad things happen to them. And we should be listening to them, respecting them. Even if there's a moment where you think you know, maybe they're exaggerating or something. You have to listen to them and understand where they're coming from before you can even make that judgment. You shouldn't be making that sort of judgment, you know, beforehand. And so you got to listen. You got to put aside that disbelief sometimes and listen, and maybe you'll find out that, hey, they are telling the truth, and you do need to help these people. You know, they all need help. You know, all these people that are crying out for help, we should be listening to them. Whatever we do in life has consequences, and we don't always recognize those consequences in the moment until it's much later. So I think it's about consequences of our actions. And so we should always be conscious of what we're doing in life, and I'll try to do the best for everybody that's involved in our lives.